When I look back at the last few years of my life, I sometimes wonder how small, ordinary moments can shift the entire direction of a family. For me, it all started on a quiet Sunday afternoon in Denver when I walked into my stepson's room without knocking. What I found there didn't just surprise me, it changed everything. My name is Rebecca Miller. I married my husband, David, a little over 3 years ago. He was a widower, a kind and grounded man with warm hazel eyes and a smile that could calm even the roughest storms. His son, Ethan, was 16 at the time, and I'll admit, when I first entered their lives, I was nervous. Step-parenting is never simple. You're stepping into a space that's already filled with memories, grief, and expectations. I didn't want to replace Ethan's mother, and I knew I never could. My only wish was to be a supportive presence. At first, Ethan kept his distance. He was polite but guarded. Dinner conversations were brief, and when I asked about school, his answers were short and clipped. I try not to take it personally. Teenagers are complicated enough without having to navigate the arrival of a new parental figure. But over time, little cracks began to show in his walls. He once laughed at one of my clumsy cooking fails. Another time, he surprised me by offering to carry in groceries. Small moments, but they meant a lot. By the time Ethan turned 18, we had built a fragile but growing trust. We weren't best friends, but we were no longer strangers either. I saw glimpses of the thoughtful, creative young man he was becoming. He loved music, guitar mostly, and often disappeared into his room to practice. Music seemed to be a safe space, the place where he processed everything he couldn't put into words. That Sunday afternoon, I was looking for the laundry basket. I had folded clothes in the living room, and Ethan's pile was still sitting there. Usually, I'd knock on his door, but the house was unusually quiet, and without thinking, I pushed it open. What I saw froze me. Ethan wasn't doing anything wrong, not really. But he was sitting at his desk, head in his hands, and tears streaming down his face. His guitar lay on the floor beside him, and scattered across the desk were crumpled sheets of paper filled with lyrics. My heart broke in that instant. He looked so vulnerable, so unlike the confident young man he tried to be around his friends or his dad. He didn't notice me right away, but when he did, he quickly wiped his face, embarrassed. "Ethan," I said softly, not wanting to startle him. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," he muttered, turning his chair away from me. I knew better than to push too hard. Instead, I quietly stepped inside and placed the folded clothes on his bed. I lingered for a moment, then asked, "Do you want to talk about it?" For a while, he stayed silent. I was about to leave when his voice cracked. "It's just nothing I do feels good enough." Those words hit me hard. We ended up talking for nearly an hour that day. Ethan opened up about the pressure he felt, pressure to live up to his dad's expectations, to be strong because his mom had passed away, to figure out his future when all he wanted to do was play music. He confessed he often felt like he was disappointing everyone, including me. That conversation marked a turning point. I realized how much Ethan carried silently, and he realized he didn't have to carry it alone. From then on, our relationship grew in a way I never expected. We began having weekly coffee chats at the local cafe. He'd bring his notebook, and I'd listen to his lyrics, encouraging him to keep writing. I didn't always understand his music, but I understood his heart, and that was enough. Sometimes he'd even play his guitar for me, his voice trembling at first, but growing stronger each time. David noticed the change, too. He would often say, "I don't know what you're doing, Rebecca, but Ethan seems lighter these days." I didn't tell him about the tears I had witnessed that Sunday. That moment felt private, something sacred between Ethan and me. Months passed, and Ethan grew more confident. He performed at a school talent show, and I'll never forget the way his classmates cheered. That night, as he walked off the stage, he caught my eye in the crowd, and I could see it, the unspoken gratitude. What followed in the next year was nothing short of transformative. Ethan applied to a music program at a college he once thought was far beyond his reach. He wrote songs that reflected not just his struggles, but his resilience. And most importantly, he began to heal the silent wounds he had carried since losing his mom. Walking into his room that afternoon could have been a small, forgettable accident. But instead, it became the moment that opened a door between us. It taught me that sometimes the people who seem the strongest are fighting the hardest battles inside. It taught Ethan that vulnerability isn't weakness, but a bridge to connection. Today, Ethan is 21. He's in college, pursuing music, and every time he sends me a new song, my heart swells with pride. He still calls me Rebecca, not Mom, and that's okay. Because I don't need a title. What I have with him is more powerful than any label. It's trust, respect, and love that grew from one unexpected moment. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Families aren't just formed by blood. They're formed by the choice to show up, to listen, and to love, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's hard. That day I walked in on my stepson, I thought I was interrupting something private. But what followed changed everything. It didn't just change Ethan's life, it changed mine too.